welcome to practice. And there was a request for today's practice. So for those of you that took class or got the replay last week, we talked about the aspect of Shiva that was often depicted as like very upright and linear. And funnily enough, my teacher friend Chelsea sent in a request that was like, I would love, a few years ago you did this workshop about chakras and we did this flow where you went like in a circle around the mat, and I would love to do something like that because life is feeling really linear right now. So it seems like the perfect thing to do part 2, which I think I talked about this guy a little bit last week. So this is the dynamic form of Shiva, right? He has a lot of different depictions, and the image isn't great, but his name is Nataraja, and he's in a ring of fire, and there are just so many powerful symbolisms to his depiction that in and of itself could be like a 2 or 3 hour workshop. But just to go briefly over the symbolisms of the image, that they he is embodying the 5 principles of manifestation. So there's creation, which in one of his hands he's holding a drum. And they say that, it's like your inner heart drum, your heartbeat, or the big bang, or just rhythm itself is creation. There's destruction. There's preservation. There's salvation and illusion. So he has one leg that's on the ground, and if you look closely at the statue, you'll see that he's actually standing on a dwarf, and the dwarf's name is Apasmara. And some people call him the demon of forgetting, and other translations of Apasmara are the dwarf of non-essential speech, which I thought was a really beautiful translation. And then the ring of fire symbolizes the cyclical nature of time and the constant cycle of birth and death. And so we'll be embodying that in our practice as we move more circularly around our mat, and also just playing with what is center and what is off center, and a little bit of rotation today as well. So it would be great if you could have like a little bit of space around your mat. And you can set yourself up however is most comfortable for you. I'm going to turn to face you, just because I think it's probably the best view to teach from for the beginning. So if you can sit up on some height, maybe a couple of blocks or a couple of blankets, so you're not in such deep knee flexion. And if you haven't already muted your audio, just to remind you to mute your audio, please. So sitting up tall and grounding your sitting bones down into whatever it is that's beneath you. And then interlace your hands together on the very top of your head for a moment. So not the back of your head, but the top of your head. Just so you have that feedback, that gentle weight of your arms pressing back down against you. So you have something to reach up into. And as you feel these 2 opposing forces of energy, the rooting down and the lengthening up, make contact with your breath and reach your arms out to the sides, and then give yourself a hug and wrap your arms around your ribs. So just, find the cross of your arms that allows you to wrap your hands all the way around to the sides and maybe even a little bit the back of the ribs. And relax your jaw and your shoulders. And start to send your breath laterally. So your ribs expand sideways into your hands, kind of like gills on a fish. And invite your breath to become a little deeper and also a little slower. And let there be space between the upper and lower teeth. And then just release and reach your arms out to the sides. And again, find that length upward and downward. Switch the cross of your arms. So if this is uncomfortable at all, you might want to, play around with which elbows in front or underneath. And just notice what it feels like to send your breath into your hands. See if you can send the breath into the space between the shoulder blades and into your lower back. We tend to really live in the front of our bodies, just right away starting to give ourselves this feedback of what it's like to really live in our three-dimensionality. And then on your next breath in, reach your arms out to the sides. You can drop one hand to the floor. We don't have to get particular about sides. We're going to do both of them. Drop one hand to the floor and reach the opposite arm overhead. Feel that both sitting bones are evenly rooted down into your blankets or blocks. And then rotate your chin, your face, to look down towards the ground. And just notice what that feels like in your neck. And then also see, you can look at your hand and see where the weight is falling in your hand and feel where the weight is falling in your hand. And can you distribute it more evenly? And then slowly turn to look up towards the ceiling. And just notice where you feel that in your neck or shoulders or chest. And then turn your head back to neutral, so your face is pointing straight ahead. Lift yourself through center and then make your way into the other side. So now that you have that extra awareness of the side ribs and the back ribs, be sure that you're sending your breath all around. Root that opposite sitting bone down, and then slowly turn your face. So not so much the ribs, but just your face down. Take a peek at your hands. See that your fingers are spread equidistant. So you don't want to kickstand your thumb super far away from the pointer. And notice the sensation in your neck, and then slowly rotate your head up towards the sky. And then turn your head back to neutral and bring yourself up through center. Pressing into your shins, fire up your thighs, your quads, and come all the way up to kneel. So we're essentially going to do a few kneeling squats. You can always reach your arms out in front of you, hinge at the hips, so crease at the hips, reach your sitting bones back, and make your way back down. So you can always, like I'm sitting up on 2 blocks, so I'm going to remove one, just for a little bit, so I have a little bit further down to go. So you can play around with that, with the height of your seat as well. And then make your way back down. And this time just tap your sitting bones down to the support and make your way back up. So feel how the legs, the glutes, the core all have to work. And one more time, hinge back, tap down, draw your navel in and up, and come all the way up to kneel. So you can take a moment to move the block out from underneath you or whatever support you have. And then step your right foot to the floor. So you're essentially in a kneeling warrior 2 position with your legs. And then take your right forearm onto your thigh. Now the tendency will be for your weight to shift into that right leg. It's not that that's bad, but try to keep your weight centered over that left thigh, right? So your left thigh is pretty vertical. Take your forearm to your thigh and then extend your left arm over your ear. And then firm the muscles in the right side waist so that you're actually pushing your forearm down into your thigh a little bit more, right? So you get a little bit more pressure down into your leg and a little bit more tone through that right side waist. And then nice and slow, circle your left arm across your face as you also rotate your rib cage down to the floor. And sweep your left arm back and up. So lower body is pretty stable and the upper body is rotating and moving fluidly. And it's nice to move with the breath. And on your next inhale, go ahead and take your left hand kind of behind your head and then press the back of your head against your hands. You're toning the muscles in the back of your neck. As you exhale, pull your belly back and up, push your thigh down and away, and rotate your rib cage. So it's not so much the elbow moving, but as if you were trying to get your left elbow to touch your right knee. And then as you inhale, open up, firm your left buttocks, and really press down into your right foot so your legs are alive. And then exhale, coil your navel and your ribs back, move your left elbow towards your right knee. And one more time, just like that. Still using your core canisters, all the muscles around your trunk, to press your forearm into your thigh. Exhale, rotate in. Now take your left hand either to a block or to the floor, kind of close to your right foot. So not next to, but close to, maybe 5 or 6 inches apart. So left hand is down, we're in a little bit of a twist. Take your right hand to your hip. Lengthen from head to tail, and then continue to turn your navel and your torso to the right. All right, so if it feels better to come up a little bit higher, you can do that. If your hand is on the ground, that's great too. Option to extend your right arm to the sky. So just a few breaths here to really live in the shape, to really embody the shape. Feel what's going on. If you're noticing a lot of tension anywhere in particular, play around with the position to see if you can shift that into greater softening. And then on your next breath in, please unwind, and your right hand can come down just to the very inside of your right foot. And then step your right shin down next to your left shin. So your lower legs are parallel and your hands are off to the right. And we're going to move through a couple of rounds of cat-cow here. Right, so their hands are off to the right side of your mat. As you exhale, pull the belly in and up and push the floor away. And so legs, lower legs are parallel. And your pelvis is going to be slightly shifted, but really try to feel even weight through both shins. One more time through cat-cow. Inhale, broaden the collarbones. Wrap your triceps to point back towards your feet. Exhale. Around like a Halloween cat. Inhale, find neutral. Find the synthesis of those two opposite actions. And then walk yourself to like a traditional table. And then shift your weight back onto your shins. Just come all the way up onto your knees. And then step your left foot to the floor, kneeling warrior two. Right, left forearm to your thigh, extend your right arm over your ear. And then as you extend and reach through the right fingertips, feel that whole line as you press down into your right shin. Slowly circle the arm across your face, let your rib cage rotate down to the ground. And we'll do that one more time. Really feel how your fingers trail in an arc across the wall, the ceiling, the other side wall, the floor. And then reach your hand behind your head and just for a moment press the back of your head against the resistance of your hands. You create a little bit more length and tone. Now keep that pressure of head against hand as you exhale. Lift your belly. With your forearm, press your thigh down and away and rotate. So again, it's not at the elbow or the shoulder that you're moving, but it's really from your trunk. Press your head back, breathe in, open up. Exhale. Really feel how the sensation, the stretch, the movement wraps around from side to back, or from front to back. Or wherever it is you feel it. I don't want to tell you what to feel, right? One last time. Take your right hand down to block or floor, about half a foot or a foot away from your left foot. Left hand to your left hip crease for a moment. Find a little bit more length. Press down into the ground and keeping your pelvis pretty stable, rotate your torso to the left. So just be where you are, feel what you feel. You have the option to extend your left arm to the sky. One side is going to be different from the other. Just let it be that, different. Another breath. Now as you unwind, take your left hand to the floor right next to your left foot. Good. Go ahead and step your left shin down. So again, your lower legs are parallel, toes are pointing straight back. And then move through a few rounds, 3 rounds of cat-cow here with your hands off to the side. All the actions that you would do if you were in a straight ahead cat-cow, you're doing the same thing. Broadening the collarbones, wrapping the triceps back, pressing the inner hands down, and lifting the pelvic floor. Scoop your low belly in and up, curl your tailbone under, spread the shoulder blades. One more round, moving with your breath. And then finding neutral. So reconcile those two opposite actions in the body. And then walk your hands back to a good old-fashioned tabletop. So if you're not already on your mat, you want to position yourself there. With your hands in table, bend your elbows slowly, both at the same time towards the ground. Wrap your elbows towards each other, but keep your inner hands heavy. Lower your forearms to the floor. And then nice and slow, straighten your arms. Push the floor away. And we'll do that one more time. Slowly lower your forearms to the ground. And then shrug your shoulders actually up to your ears and stick your bottom out, so you're creating more length through your torso. Curl your toes under, and then lift your pelvis up for a dolphin pose. So please keep your heels lifted and your knees bent. And as you tiptoe your feet towards your face, push your forearms towards the top of your mat to move your heart towards your thighs. Let your head dangle and give it a little shake. And then walk your feet a little bit further back and lift your gaze and press your inner hands down and just play with doing them both at the same time. Slowly straighten your arms. It's moving into the fire a little bit there. Inhale your way into plank pose, and if you need to adjust your stance, you can walk your hands a little bit further out. And then pivot both toes to the right. So you're on the outside edge of the left foot and the inside edge of the right foot. And the tendency here is to kind of drop your left shoulder down towards your hip. So on your next breath in, shrug your shoulders up towards your ears a little bit. Press the edges of your feet into the floor and lift your waistline. And then you can actually intentionally dip your left hip a little bit lower down. And then push your feet into the floor, lift your waistline up. So I feel like mega oblique firing when I do that. And one more time, dip your hips towards the floor. And then press into the hands and feet, lift up. And then lift your heels through center, and then pivot both toes to the left. Press the edges of your feet down. And then start to dip your right hip towards the floor. And then as you exhale, cut the feet down, lift your waistline up for 3. 2, last one. Lift on up 1, lift your heels through center, slowly lower all the way down to the ground. So we're gonna play around with rolling our locust pose. So this is where it's nice if you have a little bit of space. So just tuck your arms in by your sides. And then lift up into almost like a baby sphinx pose, excuse me. And then lift your feet up off the floor. And then lift your forearms up off the floor. Now roll, keep your feet and your chest up. Roll onto your right side. Oh, that's interesting. And then hollow body. Roll onto your back. Pull your belly down, so this is kind of like Navasana. Roll onto your left side. Try and keep your feet off the floor. Try and keep your left shoulder off the floor. Here you are, back onto your belly. Ugh, I know. Yep, that's it. Do what you gotta do. And then roll to your left. Keep your left shoulder, left elbow up off the floor. Roll onto your back. Here you are, Navasana. Low Navasana. Roll onto your right side. And then roll back onto your belly. Not the most graceful. Sweep your arms by your sides. Lift, 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 lift. Take a breath. And then exhale, lower down. You can stack your hands underneath your forehead if you'd like. Just enjoy a breath. And then slide your hands back by your heart. Press your feet down. Lift your waistline up and press yourself up into a cobra dog, or whatever expression of this belly down back bend that feels good for you. As you exhale, lengthen and lower. So your hands continue to tug towards your feet. And one more time, inhale, pressing up cobra dog, slide your ribs back. And then exhale, lift the front rim of your pelvis, go back to downward dog. In down dog, lift up to your tippy toes, and then pivot both toes to the right, just like you did in plank pose, right? So your hands are down, pivot both toes to the right, you're on the outer left foot, the inner right foot, and then start to wave yourself forward through plank. You're actually gonna lower your left hip as far down to the ground as feels sensible. Now the torso is gonna wanna rotate to the right. That's not a bad thing, but just try to keep your left collarbone wide. So I feel like a big stretch through the left side waist and left side ribs. And then push the floor away. Angle back through dog. Inhale, lift your heels way up high, balloon your armpits away from the floor. Exhale, second side, so you pivot your toes to the left. And then wave through to this variation of plank that we've been in before, but continue to let your pelvis lower down to the ground. Little bend to the elbows will be helpful. Draw your right collarbone wide, drag your hands back, lift your heart up. And then exhale, push the floor down and away. And angle back to downward facing dog. Come way up high on your tippy toes, lift your gaze. Exhale, bend your knees. Walk your feet up to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. You can take your feet hips distance, sitting bone distance, or together, whatever floats your boat. Exhale, bowing in. Inhale, lengthen. Now take your left hand to your outer right shin. So we've been exploring this movement a little bit. Sweep your right arm by your side, and it's kind of natural for my body at least to bend the left knee. So you can experiment with bending the left knee or keeping it straight. Sweep your right arm back and up, so you're here in a little bit of a twist in Uttanasana. And then swim your right hand over to your outer left shin. Let your head be heavy. There's this moment where you're pulling your outer shins towards each other. And then release your left arm back and turn your torso. So pull against your outer shin, turn your torso to the left. Swim up and back and around, and then swim that left hand all the way over to the outer right shin. Let your head be heavy. And then let your arms dangle, bend your knees, and slowly roll up, vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae. Let your head come up last. Inhale, reach your arms out, up and overhead, and breathe into your back as much as you're breathing into your front. Exhale, take your hands together in front of your heart, and then step your right knee behind your left knee. The back view is like this. So you're just on the ball of your foot. And your hips might not be perfectly level, that's okay. And then turn your torso to the left. And then, so just reviewing like the axe dropper that we did a few weeks ago. You're just gonna, from your heart center, extend your fingertips to the ground, and then connect your outer right arm to your outer left thigh, and rotate open here. Squeeze your legs towards each other, lengthen from head to tail, and just rotate as best you can, keeping the pelvis fairly neutral. And then inhale, unwind, hands to heart. Come all the way to stand, free your right leg. And then exhale to step your left foot behind your right. So you cross to the other side. So you kind of tuck your left kneecap into the right knee pit, for lack of a better description. Angle forward, hinge back. So it's kind of like Utkatasana a little bit. And then extend both fingertips to the floor. Rotate until you can get your outer left forearm against your outer right thigh. And then reach your right arm to the sky. And just notice if you're flinging your hand back. Try to keep the hand in line with the shoulder. Rotate your torso to the left, and also use arm against leg for a little bit of leverage. And on your next inhale, unwind, hands to heart. Come back up to stand. Exhale, release your arms. Inhale, sit low, reach high. Exhale, fingertips can just graze the floor. Interlace the hands together behind you, and then pour the legs just as straight as feels sensible for you. So I would encourage you to keep a little bend to your knees. Some of us will keep a big bend. Inhale, fingertips to the floor, lengthen halfway. Exhale, step back to plank, and lower chaturanga. Spread your pinky toes. Keep your buttocks firm. Inhale, coming up for air. Cobra dog or upward facing. Exhale, press the floor away. Downward facing dog or dolphin pose if you prefer. As we visited this pose early on in practice, you might want to visit it again and see if and how it feels different. Three more breaths wherever you are. So if you walked your feet in quite a bit in dolphin, walk them a little bit further out. Lift your gaze, and then again at the same time, try to straighten your arms. Bend your knees. You can walk, step, or hop up to the top of your mat. Inhale, sit low, reach high. Exhale, as you come up to stand, wrap your left arm underneath your right arm. You can either give yourself a hug or find eagle arms, right? Either backs of the hands working towards each other or find that full cross of your wrists. And then bend your knees slightly, hinge at the hips, and then wrap your left leg over. So squeeze your legs towards each other. And how far down you come is entirely up to you. So I notice the deeper down I sit, the more opening I feel in this outer left hip. So we're going to be transitioning into half moon in a moment, where a block might come in handy. So you're going to pull your left knee towards your navel and just extend your arms out to the sides for a moment. So this is like Karate Kid moment here. And then bend your standing leg, take your hands together in front of your heart. Now keep your knee pointing over your second toe. As you start to pitch forward, turn open, take your right fingertips to block or floor. Right knee is bent, please. Everybody bend your right knee. For your left arm to the sky, turn open. If there's something in a half moon that you're playing with that makes you really happy, that makes sense for you to do here, like a thigh stretch, enjoy. Just a couple more breaths. Right knee is bent. Spin your inner right thigh wide towards your fourth toe. Lengthen from head to tail to heel. One more breath in. And then exhale, slowly step back to warrior two. Reach both arms overhead, and then your left hand is going to hold just below your right wrist. And as you sit a little deeper down through your right thigh, lengthen up out of your pelvis and start to reach back. I'm very happy that you can see me but not smell me in this moment. A couple more breaths here. Dig your right heel into the floor and then find that spinning action to get your inner thigh to wrap back. And on your next breath in, rise back up, warrior two. Exhale your hands to the floor. Reach your right leg to the sky. Inhale, down dog split. And then exhale, bend your knee, fan the hip open, and squeeze your heel over to your left sitting bone. I'll ask you to lift your left heel and bend your left knee and look at your left kneecap. So the tendency is for the left kneecap to rotate in towards the big toe. Try to keep it looking over second or third toe. Float your left armpit away from the floor, and then feel that rotation through the pelvis, the rib cage that we were working on before. Take another breath in here. Exhale, knee to navel. Step your right foot up close to your right thumb. You can floss the hamstrings here if you'd like. Come to blocks or fingertips. Push your right leg not quite straight, but in that direction. And then bend your right knee. And right leg straight-ish. And then bend your right knee. Now walk your hands out in front of you and lift your left foot to the sky. You can play with standing split variation here. So you can maybe take your left hand around your right ankle, tug your hand up your leg to get your chest further down your thigh. You can play with balancing, taking both hands to your ankle. If you want to do a little inversion play here, you can do that as well. Lucky enough to be super close to a wall. So just 3 more breaths wherever you are. And then inhale, lengthen your spine, step your left foot to the floor. Exhale, soften your knees, hang over ragdoll, backs of the hands to the floor. Palms face up, let your shoulders fall to your ears. And inhale, sit low, reach high. Deep Utkatasana. Exhale, as you stand now, wrap your right arm underneath your left. And find that variation of eagle arms that suits you. All right, sit on down a little bit and then wrap your right leg over. So I really enjoy just hugging the pinky toe edge of the foot against the outer shin rather than hooking the toes behind the calf. And it actually requires a little bit more power. And then how far down you sit is completely within your discretion. And then start to make your way out. Spread your arms out to the sides. As you draw your right knee to your navel, your pelvis will likely want to tuck under. So keep your thigh back. Claw. You can make the Karate Kid sound if you like. Hands to heart. Bend your standing leg a lot. Stay connected to your core canister. As you start to thread your right leg back, you're going to turn open to a half moon shape. Keep your left knee bent and then take left fingertips to block or floor. Continue to turn open. You can free your right arm to the sky. I'm a fan of looking down for balance. You can look up. You can take a thigh stretch. Under the bottom hand, the variation that suits you here for 3 more breaths. And then slowly making your way to warrior 2. Sit low in your left thigh, reach the arms overhead. Right hand holding just below the left wrist to sail up and back. Spin your left foot as if you were trying to open the lid of a jar. Spin your heel towards your big toe ball mound. Send your breath not only into the left side where the breath, it will obviously go, but into your back and into the right side. And then rise back through warrior 2. And wheel your hands to the floor and then free that left leg to the sky. Bend the knee, fan the hip open. Now take a look at your right leg, right? Lift your right heel, do a little bend into your right knee. I just find it easier to find a little bit more muscular engagement if you bend your knee. Float your right armpit up. Turn it open until you feel that rotation through your spine, your rib cage a little bit. And then knee to navel, step your left foot up, close to your left thumb. Come to blocks or fingertips. And then find a little bit more extension through your left leg. Option to rock back onto your heel, keep your left knee bent. And then into a deeper lunge. And then one more extend, pull in, bend. And then walk the hands out in front of you and pitch your right foot to the sky. Again, standing split variation, wrap your right hand around your ankle. Maybe wrap both hands around your ankle. Or if you want to play with a little inversion play time here, you got 3, 2, and 1. Inhale, lengthen. Step your right foot to the floor, and then exhale, bow in. Inhale, sit low, reach high. Exhale, stand and interlace your hands together behind you, opposite thumb, your non-dominant hand, thumb on top. Reach your hands away from your body. And then release your hands and just kind of backstroke your arms. And let there be movement through your shoulders and rib cage and spine and hips and knees. And feel how the weight shifts around from the inner edge of the foot to the outer edge of the foot. And then circling both arms forward, up, back, and exhale, fold. Head is heavy. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, just walk back to downward facing dog. Now lift your head and look at your hands for a second and notice how your left hand with your thumb and forefinger make the letter L. L is for left, just in case we forget. Inhale your right leg to the sky. Exhale your knee to your navel, and then step your right foot up to actually replace your right hand. So come to the right fingertips, move your right hand in closer, good. You might want to widen your left hand just a little bit more. Now pivot both toes to the right. As you pivot your toes to the right, lower your pelvis to the floor, might not touch, and then keep your left shoulder back. So widen your left collarbone. Take your right fingertips to the floor behind you, then look over your right shoulder. Keep your left foot alive, keep your left leg alive. And on your next inhale, press down into your feet, lift up like through a side plank shape, and then make your way through wide-legged fold. Inhale, get long, and then twist to the right as you exhale, right arm to the sky. And then keep circling your right arm over your ear, forward towards the wall that's in front of you. And then dive your right hand over to your left ankle or shin or whatever you can reach. And just pull your torso towards your left shin. And then your pelvis is going to want to shift to the left. Just experiment with what it's like to keep it a little bit more in the center. And then to push, as you push your right foot into the floor, to shift your pelvis to the left. Turn your torso to the left, reach your left arm to the sky. Reach your left arm forward by your ear, touch the floor, and then bend your left knee. Skandasana. So this is like a feet parallel Skandasana. And then lift your pelvis and turn over your left leg. And then lower your right knee, which is now your back knee, down to the ground. So what was the back is now the front. Widen your right hand slightly. Twisted monkey thigh stretch. So rotate your torso to the left. Kick your right heel towards your bottom. Catch where you can. And spread your toes. Firm your right buttocks and lift your thigh. Inhale, kick your foot back into your hand. Open the front body as you would for bow pose. And exhale, bend your right elbow and get low. And take your forearm to a block or to the floor, or you can flow with this. Or as you inhale, you kick back and open up. As you exhale, you bow down, keeping the right shoulder head lifted just as you would for Chaturanga. Time, inhale, kick back and open. And exhale, bowing in, getting low. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, unwind, touch the floor, and step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg again to the sky. Exhale, knee to navel, step your foot in between your hands. Ground your back foot. Inhale, pinwheel the arms up, warrior two. And then exhale, wrap your right arm underneath your left as you switch your legs into horse stance or goddess stance. Right, so your arms are wrapped in eagle. Sorry, I've got the back view. Looks like this. Yep, that's it. And then untangle your arms, and as you do, just switch your legs. So now it's left leg in warrior two. Breath in. And then exhale, pinwheel your hands to the floor. And as you sweep your left foot back and up into the sky, lower your forearms down to the ground. So here we are in one-legged dolphin pose. Yes, almost riding the momentum of your left foot lifting back and up to lift your left leg up. Working one-legged dolphin. If you want to play with making your way into this kind of like split forearm stand, feel free. 2 more breaths. And lower both feet. Here we are back in downward facing dog. Inhale your left foot to the sky. And then exhale, step your left foot up closer to your left hand, like wide of your left hand even. Right hand can step to the right a little bit. And then pivot both toes to the left. So we're going around the other way. So now the right hip is lowering to the floor. Little bend to your right elbow and draw your right shoulder like up and back, essentially, yeah. You can reach your left fingertips to the floor behind you. Yeah, Drew, lift your chest and like lean back a little bit so your ribs are, yeah, stacked over your pelvis. Good, that's it. Nice, Steve, good. Look over your left shoulder, take a breath. And inhale to unwind, walk your hands to the right. Wide-legged fold, lengthen. And then start to rotate, press into your feet, pull them towards each other so you feel your inner thighs. Rotate your belly, your chest, your ribs to the left, reach your left arm up. So you're rotating on your central longitudinal axis like a veggie kebab. Reach your left arm over your ear towards the wall that's in front of you. And then dive your left hand over to your outer right shin or whatever you can grab. Pull your torso on over. And then just experiment with a moment with keeping your pelvis fairly neutral, and then push into your left foot and let your pelvis shift. And then take your right arm up and over your right ear. And then take your right fingertips to the floor, unwind. Take your left fingertips to the floor and bend your right knee for this Skandasana variation. It's totally up to you how low you want to go, but I'm going to ask you to keep your left foot flat for today. And then keep turning to the back of your mat. Turn and lunge over your right leg. Lower your left knee down. And as you kick your left heel towards your sitting bone, turn your body open to the right and reach back and catch where you can. And bowing in. Moving with your breath if you did so before. This is 5 stages of creation that the dance of Nataraja takes us through. I think are really present in so many different stages on our mat. Inhale, kick back, open up. Let it go. Step back, downward facing dog. Constantly poses are being born. They have a beginning, a middle, and end. Left foot to the sky. Exhale, step your left foot in between your hands, ground your back foot flat. Inhale, rise up, warrior 2, feeling how they blend one into the other, but there's this definite arc. And then hop your right foot in close, find eagle arms, wrapping the opposite arm underneath that you did before. Working evenly through the legs, lift your elbows away from the floor. Then as you untangle your arms, you're going to switch your legs. So push your left leg straight, turn it in, wrap your right thigh out, warrior 2 over your right leg. And inhale your hands down to the ground. And as you free your right leg to the sky, lower your forearms down. So here we are, one-legged dolphin on the other side. And play with coming to your tippiest of tippy toes. Stay in that kind of more leg split variation. Last couple of breaths. And then lower down. Dog pose. Lower your knees to the floor. And if child's pose is comfortable for you, please sit back into child's pose or wisdom pose. And if not, you can return to this upright kneeling position that we did at the very beginning of practice. Just allow yourself to rest for a moment. Using the breath to spread the light of awareness all through your back as you allow all the surfaces of your body that are on the earth to rest. So I normally think of as the front. And then reach your arms back out in front of you, make your way through table, and then sneak your right leg through to pigeon. So if you'd like a little bit more space between your legs, you can curl your back toes under and walk your back knee a little further back. And then press your shins down, come to your fingertips, and then lift your right frontal hip bone up away from your right thigh bone. Right, so use your core canister to do that, press your legs into the floor to do that, draw your collarbones broad. And then lower your forearms down, so just to the forearms, and then take your left forearm parallel to the top of your mat, right, parallel to your collarbones, rotate to the right. Now as you do, notice if your pelvis is shifting to the left. Try to keep your hips fairly square, and then reaching your right hand back for your left foot or ankle. Pose always, pigeon pose, I always have a little bit of like destruction of my ego, which is always a good thing. And do it in a way, so don't just sit in your joints, please. Do it in a way that preserves your joints. Press your thighs down, hug them in. Rotate on your center. On your next breath in, let your foot go, unwind, come all the way back up to sit. And then just step back to table. Second side. Bring your left shin through. So just bring your leg as far forward as you can bring it on your own without using your hand to get it on up there. If you want more space, walk your back knee further back. And Come to your fingertips or your blocks for a moment. Press down, lift your left frontal hip bone up off your thigh. Lengthen. So I really like to take a hand on the top of the head here. So you close the chain, gives you some feedback. It's a little bit easier to find that length. Yeah, and then lower down onto your forearms. And continue to lengthen as if you had a hand on top of your head to push into. Take your right forearm parallel to the top of your mat. Rotate your belly, your ribs to the left. Bend your knee, and then reach your left hand back for your right foot. And then here you almost have to widen your left sitting bone more. This is very, kind of normal for your pelvis to want to turn as well. Pull your heel to your sitting bone, lift your sitting bone to your heel. And continue to lengthen the right knee and the top of your head away from each other as you turn. On your next breath in, let that go. Walk your hands back, come up to your hands, and then step your left knee back. So you can curl your toes under. A block might be helpful here. So we're moving into heart melting pose. So with your pelvis over your knees, walk your hands wide like a V, like to the top corners of your mat. And just as you would for down dog, balloon your armpits away from the floor and melt right in the center of the bottom tips of the shoulder blades down. So you can take your breastbone to a block or your forehead. Slow your breath. So please rest your forehead on block or floor unless your breastbone is touching the ground. Soften your brow. Breathe calmly through the nose. 3 more. And then press your palms down and kind of inchworm your way onto your belly. And then turn over onto your back. Plant your feet where you would have them for bridge pose. And please have a folded up blanket or a block handy. Just stand down into your feet and lift your pelvis high to the sky. And then as you exhale, lower vertebrae by vertebrae. All the way down. Okay. Walk your arms a little bit closer into your body. And then again, press your feet down, lift your hips up. And then see if you can interlace your hands together underneath you. So you might need to kind of press into the shoulders, walk your hands in a little bit closer. Elbows on the floor, please. Okay, so if the interlace doesn't feel quite right, let your hands go and hold onto the outer edges of your mat. Now, with your pelvis lifted up in bridge pose, shift your hips off to the right. And as you lower your hips down, your hips will be, well, if your hands are clasped, your hips will be to the right of your hands. And if you're holding your mat, then your hips will be all the way over by your right hand. And so hands are clasped, hips are on the floor if you can, to the outside of your right hand. And then go up and over, push into your feet, lift your hips up like in an arc, and go over the left and lower down. So your pelvis is on the floor outside the back of your left hand. So if this is too much for your elbows, then you have to experiment with your hand position. It's kind of good to stretch the shoulders and the forearms in this way for me, for my body. A little different. Push down into your feet, lift through center, unclasp your hands, and then lower down vertebrae by vertebrae as you sweep your arms up overhead. So take your feet, your knees, hips distance apart. So you can either lift up once again for bridge pose, or we'll finish with Urdhva Dhanurasana, upward facing bow. So you can place your hands as wide as your mat, in line with your ears. Stand down through your feet and lift your pelvis first and connect shoulder blades into the back of the heart. And then on your next breath, push the floor away. Rise up, let your head hang down. You can turn your head slowly over your right shoulder. And turn your head over your left shoulder. Turn your head through center, another breath. Exhale, come down slow. Keep your armpits hollow. Shift your pelvis slightly off to the left. Draw the knees over your hips. Bring the legs together and then drop your legs slowly over to the right. So you're using your core to resist the weight of your legs a little bit. So very naturally your left shoulder blade will probably lift up off the floor. There's no need to force it down, but reach your left arm wide as if you were trying to get it down. Right, if you can get that left shoulder blade down without any discomfort in your spine, then please do. At the moment that something feels twingy or tweaky, just give yourself some space. I think that, from the rise of fancy poses posted on Instagram, we all have this illusion that the poses need to look a certain way. Really, it's so much about the inner feeling. And then you can lift your legs out one at a time. Drop your feet to the floor and shift your pelvis through center, slightly over to the right. Preservation and restoration of prana. Lift your knees, drop your legs slowly over to the left. Maintaining our energy, our vitality, maintaining the health and longevity of our joints, keeping our ego in check. Real and lasting connections and relationships to other beings. Moving through the world in an authentic way from the wisdom of our bodies and from the wisdom of our hearts. So the dance of all 5 aspects of manifestation: the creation, the preservation, the dissolution, the salvation, which was also translated in some of the stuff I read as embodiment. Salvation and embodiment were interchangeable. And delusion. All play into how we move in our mats and on our lives. Inhale and wind. Drop your feet to the floor, shift your pelvis to neutral. And then 2 options. If you'd like to stay down, you'll just extend your legs and hold anywhere on the backs of the legs that feels good for you. Right, so it's essentially a supine forward fold. You can also make your way up to sit for a seated forward fold. Slow your breathing down. And make your breath subtle. I think that there is absolutely a place for Ujjayi breathing. In terms of restoring prana and maintaining our vitality, we want the breath to become more subtle. That's what pranayama teaches us. So breathe in such a way that if I was holding my hand in front of your nose, I would barely feel your breath against my palm. supine or seated forward fold, dissolve into Shavasana. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. And let go of any judgments about your practice or any attachments that you might have to outcome. Let go of effort. Feeling the weight of your limbs against the floor, the right arm and the left arm, and the right leg and the left leg. The weight of your head. Soften your belly. Soften your jaw. Soften all the sense organs, inner and outer corners of your eyes. You can relax and widen. The space inside the ears widen. Do not become involved. Notice any sounds that you hear in this present moment. Simply receiving sound. Notice your effortless breath. Observe the movement of your body as the breath flows in, the movement of your body as the breath flows out. Starting with the back of your head, making your way down, feeling all the points of contact, the surfaces of your body against the floor, and allow them to become heavier. The back of the head, the shoulder blades, the backs of the arms and the backs of the hands, and your buttocks, your calves and your heels, heavier and heavier. The whole front of your body is soft, open, easy. And just feeling the outline of your body, your outermost edges and the shape of your body against the floor. And now feel your midline. Now feel your outline and midline together. Stay dropped into that place of ease as you deepen your breath. Give your fingers and toes a little wiggle. Just remember the room that you're in and the color of the clothes that you're wearing. So you bend your knees. to your side. It's from the dissolution of our practice, the depth of our practice. May you rise up to a new cycle, a new phase of the day, of the night, a new chapter of life, coming up to any seated posture of your choice. And just settle into stillness for another moment. Just feel the effects of your practice to your physical body, your energy body, your mental, emotional body, your sense of connection to all things. Bring your hands together, connecting to your heart space, to your center. And as you bow to your heart, I bow to you. Thank you for practicing. Namaste.